kristallen den fina som solen månskina, som stjärnorna blänka i skyn. Jag känner en flicka i tygen, den fina, en flicka i denna här by.
This group of old friends represents a typical constellation. Phoniatricians, vocologists who like to sing. There are many of them, and we love them all. But they will not be in the center of this presentation. The other way around. We are out for singers eager to go into science, reflecting an old debate. Does professional singing require a profound knowledge of how it works, or not? Art by science, or art just on its own? There is certainly no universal answer. We know very well that there are many excellent singers with no interest at all for what happens when they are singing.
Das ist mir eigentlich sehr unangenehm, wenn jemand hineinschauen würde, und es ist mir auch ziemlich egal, was da drinnen vorgeht. Ich mache es einfach und singe einfach. Und singen, das ist das, was mir Spaß macht, und nicht das, wenn mir jemand mit einer Röhrl in den Hals fährt.
But a whole lot of distinguished singers cannot help searching for the reasons of extraordinary voice production. They want to understand, in particular when they are teaching. The lecture will refer to some of them. Outstanding personalities who excelled both in performing arts as well as in scientific elaborations. Let us start with Manuel Patricio Garcia, whose performance and enormous impact is being thoroughly acknowledged here by the comprehensive survey from Secundino Fernandez and his colleagues. Garcia, highly praised by posterity for his basic studies and also blamed by contemporaries for his marotte scientifique, was a painstaking observer. I've got a rather special example for you. In his famous book, he described precisely the vocal behavior of Bashkir people and peasants conducting horses in St. Petersburg in Russia. I have to thank Philip de Jonkere for that source, who had the astonishing faculty to produce simultaneously two perfectly distinct tunes. One no pedal note, on which they let hear a high-pitched melody, which he called cantilena, and he put down a notation. When we look at the pedal tone, set one octave higher here for better demonstration, as the fundamental of a theoretical spectrum, we realize, in fact Philip de Jonkere realized, that the cantilena in Garcia's notation is composed of overtones to that fundamental. Although there are slight deviations of the frequencies of partials number 10 and number 15 to the corresponding pitches to the tempered scale, too low, not so for the just scale, and a considerable aberration for partial number 11, which is closer to F sharp than to F. Listen to the two sequences again as composed of pure tones with the partials frequencies. The melody is a little bit out of tune. Garcia provided not only a clear phenomenology of what we today call overtone or formant singing, he also discussed plausible approaches to physiological explanations of this phenomenon without, to his great disappointment, arriving at a satisfying concept. In the 80s I tried to win one of the most prominent German overtone singers, Michael Vetter, as a partner for some basics experiments in the field, to no avail. He is an excellent artist, but not at all interested in any physiological matters. But he recommended one of his students, Gary Smith, who sung the Garcia passage for some real-time FFT analysis. Of course, there was full accordance as to the theoretical expectations. Two years before, my wife Ulla had worked with one of her students at the Berlin Music Pedagogic Institute, Carsten Schulze, on overtone singing, and he was kind enough to allow lateral X-ray recordings of his vocal tract whilst producing overtones. Here you see the configuration of his mouth cavity for the overtone G5 to the fundamental G2. For whistling at the same frequency, the position of the tongue is exactly the same, proving that overtone singing and whistling make use of the same resonatory function. Agreed, that is only a first approximation. Here at this meeting there is an outstanding expert present who can tell much more and everything when it comes to overtone singing. Artist and scientist Tran Quang Hai. You already had the chance to listen to him. Nevertheless, let me just give 3 short examples for his sovereign mastery of the subject. At first, basic demonstration with the fundamentals kept constant.
So if we sing here, so you have the whole series.
Now, fundamentals following a diatonic scale, partials in accordance. And now the highlight. Fundamentals going up and down, and partials going down and up. Skill beyond limits. New topic. In the middle of the recent century, Raoul Husson, a French physicist and singer, perplexed the scientific world by a groundbreaking, unbelievable idea about the production of the voice. instead of being passively set in vibration by air blowing from below, Raoul Luçon claimed that the vocal folds are brought to vibratory motion by rapid contractions of the vocalis muscles themselves, following coup par coup nerval excitations from the recurrent nerve. That means the laryngeal sound is produced by active movements of the glottis. After a short while of paralysis-like silence, scientists all over the world started a great variety of research programs to check this new philosophy, most of them deeply convinced that this could be nothing than a fundamental error. Let me quote here in the first place one outstanding representative, Jan Willem van den Berg from Groningen, who essentially contributed to a convincing confirmation of the aerodynamic myoelastic theory of voice production. Among many other profound studies, he repeated the Johannes Müller experiments from 1840 according to his current technical possibilities and produced, together with the American singer William Wendler, a fascinating instructional film on the vibrating larynx. It is my great pleasure to show you a couple of short sequences from this film, kindly provided by Harm Schutte many years ago for presentation to my students. That's why the comments are converted to German. At first, the tilting function of the Cricothyroides.
Wenn der Schildknorpel dagegen fixiert wird, muss der Ringknorpel kippen. So. Das kommt den wirklichen Verhältnissen näher.
And now increasing pitch with increasing tension. Van den Berg's scientific studies were enthusiastically supported and replenished by William Wendler from the singer's artistic point of view. An ideal cooperation. And now a few words to the celebrated retiring young man. Beste Harm, when we met for the first time, centuries ago at one of the Leipzig symposia, and you were out at a disciple of the great Jan Willem van den Berg, a strong flush of admiration and respect flitted through my mind, continuing over the years. Your achievements are numerous. Let me name just a few. You are playing several instruments, conducting choirs, and without being a trained singer yourself, you have developed a great affinity to the fascinating field of the singing voice. Together with Don Miller, you have contributed extended fundamental new insight to the field, not to mention many other important topics. 60 years of voice research in Groningen. That's what the front page of the program says. A glorious era coined by two glorious names, Jan Willem van den Berg and Harm Schutte. You are the voice of Groningen. Thanks and congratulations. We will return to your work when we are going to talk about Don Miller. For the moment, we stick to the controversies about Isson's theory, and I would like to remember here my teacher and dear friend Wolfgang Pfau. Parallel to his medical training, he had a full education in singing and, among others, an engagement at the Opera House Halle is a serious basso for 2 seasons. Listen to an aria of King Lycomedes from Deidamia at the Handel Festival in 1953. In the dispute over Isson's ideas, he measured the length of the vocal folds with increasing pitch, with an elegant, simple procedure after Trendelenburg. The laryngeal mirror picture is partially reflected by a sheet of glass, and a virtual image appears on a black velvet screen where it can be measured by a pair of compasses. It was clearly demonstrated that with increasing pitch, the vocal fold's length increased due to the extension caused by the frame stretching, as at the same time described anatomically by the Senkers in Vienna. Our photographic measurements afterwards in Berlin confirmed Faur's results completely. Pitch is a function of tension. The scene now shifts to Belgrade. We listen to Dusan Cvejic. He was the father of phoniatrics in former Yugoslavia, with phonosurgery and care of the professional voice being his main fields of interest. In 1994 he published, together with his wife Biserka, held in high esteem as one of the worldwide leading mezzos at her time, a gorgeous luxury book on singing, combining scientific as well as artistic aspects in an impressive, competent manner. Listen again now to both of them. And not to forget, Duško Cvejic was the founding president of the Union of the European Phoniatricians, which, against a sea of plagues, succeeded in keeping colleagues in touch from both sides of the Iron Curtain, whilst Europe was so strongly divided during the Cold War. Thank you, Duško. But now back to Groningen. I know talking about Don Miller and Harms Schutte in Groningen means to take matches to the Netherlands. Nevertheless, with Don Miller, we are naming a well-acknowledged singer as well as a vocalist of worldwide reputation. I am sure that he has realized very well the enormous chances of a close cooperation with outstanding experts like Jan Willem van den Berg and Harm Schutte, and so did they from their parts. An admirable and inviolable example of mutual stimulation and support. Out of their numerous studies, let me just quote two impressive examples. The first one is on larynx positions and their influences on the resonatory properties of the vocal tract. First, larynx in a low position. Watch the prominential larynx below a little pigment spot.
I am a poor wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of woe.
With the larynx elevated to a high position, simulating untrained singing, the sound of the voice changes conspicuously to a poorer quality.
I am a poor wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of woe.
The changes show up impressively when we look at the Voce Vista figures, displays from the biofeedback equipment developed by Don Miller, showing a clearly richer spectrum with the larynx in a low position. The second example demonstrates the influence of vocal tract properties on the efficiency of voice production based on studies which Harm and Dunn carried out together. In this experiment, with Dunn serving as the guinea pig, a mini pressure transducer was passed through the glottis to pick up the subglottal pressure during singing. The radiated SPL was recorded simultaneously. Whilst the subglottal pressure was kept permanently constant, the radiated sound pressure level increased remarkably when in a sequence of changing vowels sung at a high pitch, the formant frequencies of a given vowel coincided with a partial tone offered by the glottal source spectrum. Listen to the recording. To make this power increase clearer, after repetition, in the third sequence, the tape speed is set 4 times slower, corresponding then to a pitch 2 octaves lower. That means we can get a substantial gain in loudness. Remember, increase by 10 dB corresponds to a doubling of the perceived loudness. A substantial gain in loudness by just tuning the vocal tract, without any additional exertion to increase subglottal pressure. Agreed, This study reflects the classical linear source filter theory, which today is more and more being extended to nonlinear dimensions. Nevertheless, an important step. The wonderful voice we are going to listen to now belongs to Rolf Leandersson from Stockholm.
Tis nature's voice, tis nature's voice, through the moving wood. From her it learned the mighty, the mighty art.
As a well-known phoniatrician from Karolinska Hospital, he dealt with cleft palate problems, and as a singer he studied several aspects of voice production, for example, breathing muscle activity and subglottal pressure dynamics in singing and speech. He was not only the first author of this study, but also one of the subjects, tolerating intraesophageal and intergastric pressure measurements and EMG recordings from the intercostal and diaphragm muscles. The same is true for the second author, Johan Sundberg. He is here, we all know him and admire him, he is on the top. Have you heard him singing?
Auf dem Grabe der Liebe wächst Blümlein Ruh, da blüht es hervor, da pflückt man es ab.
His comprehensive investigations on the singing voice determine one of the current standard references. Let me just mention the worldwide known graph on the singer's formants as drawn from his analysis of Jussi Björling's voice. To give you a vivid impression of this formant, I am showing you now 3 samples from a video by Wolfram Seidner and Dieter Mrowinski, each of the samples containing a glissando tone and a piece of an aria. At first, the full sound of the voice.
Man bemüht sich Tag und Nacht für den Kerl, dem nie was recht, hält bei Wind und Wetter Wacht, ist so selten, schläft so schlecht. Ich will selbst den Herren machen.
Second, the singer's formants beyond 2.5 kHz cut off.
Man bemüht sich Tag und Nacht für den Kerl, dem nie was recht, hält bei Wind und Wetter Wacht, ist so selten, schläft so schlecht. Ich will selbst den Herren machen.
And now the singer's formants only, frequencies below 2.5 kHz cut off. And finally, the full sound once more.
Tag und Nacht für den Kerl, dem nie was recht, hält bei Wind und Wetter Wacht, ist so selten, schläft so schlecht. Ich will selbst den Herren machen.
Wolfram too has always combined arts and sciences in his professional career. 4 editions of his book stand for everywhere acknowledged competence in both fields. And 2 meetings a year, over a period of 19 years, of the interdisciplinary Berliner Gesangswissenschaftlichen Tagungen, which he inaugurated and conducted, are further proof of his untiring engagement. Now, let him sing.
Durch Feld und Wald zu schweifen, mein Liedchen wegzupfeifen, so geht's von Ort zu Ort, so geht's von Ort zu Ort. Und nach dem Tag der reget und nach dem Maß beweget sich alles an mir fort. Und nach dem Maß beweget sich alles an mir fort.
Even at a European Voice Conference, we should not completely neglect the rest of the world. Bob Satterloff from Philadelphia, for instance, fits perfectly in with the profile of this presentation. His professional education and career cover both science and arts in an outstanding manner. Professional care of the voice at top level and professional use of the voice, his own voice as well as the voices of others, laryngologist, singer and conductor. To name the details would crash the presentation. Take 1 out of his 36 books for a summary and listen to 2 recent performances.
I touch your hand and my arms grow strong, like a pair of birds that burst with song.
When we are looking out for another outstanding representative of arts and sciences to provide us an enchanting, captivating finale on singing and science, then we inevitably run into Ingo Titze. A fully trained singer and a scientist of highest excellence. His achievements are also legendary. Out of his widespread research interests, I am just mentioning his unique model work with computer simulations, which is having continuing substantial impact on current ideas about the principles of voice production. As a quinta essentia of the application of his scientific insight from numerous analytic investigations to a lifelong love of vocal music, let us finish with Pavarotti, Ingo alternating with his singing robot. How did all these people manage to excel both in performing arts as well as in scientific elaborations in that fascinating manner? Does professional singing require a profound knowledge of how it works? These could have been other riddles to be posed by the Chinese princess. The speaker has no answer. Hat off! Silence is the rest, in deep respect and admiration of all singers and scientists who have followed the father of vocology, Manuel Patricio Rodriguez Garcia. Thank you for your attention.